Nicole, and for my audience member, I have my friend here, and I just figured it'd be easier to just have her stand up rather than turn the computer around. So today I'm going to be talking about nonverbal communication within the workplace. Dr. Albert Metrambia, author of Silent Messages, conducted several studies on nonverbal communication. He found that 7% of any message conveyed through words, 38% through certain vocal elements, and 55% through nonverbal messages such as facial expressions, gestures, posture, eye contact, etc. And so he subtracted 7% for actual vocal context, which leaves 93% left. So basically he's saying that 93% of communication is nonverbal. So nonverbal communication has a huge impact on our everyday lives, and without being aware and informed of it, we cannot be successful within the workplace. So after doing extensive research on this topic, I found many reliable sources such as doctors, experts, human resource experts, editors, the list goes on. And everyone uses nonverbal communication on a daily basis, almost every minute. And it is an important skill to have mastered, so I thought this was the perfect topic. So throughout this presentation, I am going to explain and define what nonverbal communication is. I'm going to give you a description regarding common errors people tend to make using nonverbal communication. And I'm going to explain the importance and power of nonverbal communication. So first, I'm going to enlighten you all on what nonverbal communication is. There are many different aspects of nonverbal communication, and basically nonverbal communication is communication without words. So communication by the means of space, gesture, facial expressions, touching, vocal variation, or even silence. So for example, when you first meet a manager, say for an interview, I would hope the first thing you would do is smile, give a nice handshake, say, "Hi, how are you doing today?" Then take a seat. Right in that 30 seconds of just interacting with the potential maybe new manager or boss of a store that you had an interview for, you have used carefully chosen tone, you have used proper posture, eye contact, physical touching, facial expressions, all just within that 30 seconds of interacting. So, how do people interact using nonverbal communication? Well, the sender conveys nonverbal information to a receiver. So, for example, if I smiled at the end of the interview because the manager said, "I'm offering you the job position, do you want it?" And I say yes and smile, I'm sending a message to my new boss that I'm excited and happy that I got the job. So, nonverbal communication between one another is done with the use of facial expressions, body language, eye contact, gestures, and posture. So next I'm going to talk about the common mistakes people tend to make using nonverbal communication. So one of the biggest ones is body language. It is definitely a common mistake that is seen throughout. So excellent nonverbal communication skills tell your audience that you are confident, energetic, engaged, and honest, says Tonya Raymond, author of Power of Body Language. For example, if you're crossing your arms while you're talking to your boss about maybe your performance or new rules or just anything your boss had to talk to you about, you're giving a defensive / closed off vibe to your superior, which I mean your boss. So another common mistake in nonverbal communication as well is lack of eye contact. Studies suggest that holding eye contact while speaking has an enormous impact on your ability to persuade. Lack of eye contact oftenly implies deception and or lying. So for example, when you're listening to what your boss has to tell you maybe about your performance this past month, and you're staring at the ground, say, or you're staring at people walking in the store or anything but looking at your boss in the eyes, it, to me, gives off a vibe that you are insecure about maybe what your boss is talking about or that you're not interested, or it's just, to me, disrespectful. And I know eye contact is kind of hard, but if you're staring at the ground or staring at everywhere but your boss, it's definitely a common error that is seen today. So finally, I'm going to be discussing the importance and power of nonverbal communication. So what makes nonverbal communication important and powerful? The ways we look, listen, move, and react tells the other person whether or not you care, if you're being truthful, and how well you're listening. When your nonverbal signals match up with the words you are saying, they create trust, clarity, and rapport. When they don't match up, that's where you tend to see mistrust, confusion, and tension. So, how is nonverbal communication important and powerful in the workplace? Well, your nonverbal messages that are displayed are significant due to the fact that others are able to interpret cues given off by someone. So, if I was giving off a cue, my friend would be able to interpret it. If she was giving off a cue, I would be able to interpret it. So, for example, in the workplace, from my own experience as a manager, if I had an employee walked in who always looked very presentable, clean clothes, today comes in with stains all over her shirt or like wrinkly uniform, I would immediately think, oh, like it must have been a rough night last night or something along those lines. Also, maybe say I asked an employee, like, hey, would you be able to go grab me like a pack of napkins or something from the back, and they like grunted. I would think, oh, you must have woke up on the wrong side of the bed. There's many different situations that can occur, but those are just a couple examples. So overall, the main points I covered was the explanation and definition of nonverbal communication, the descriptions regarding common errors that we see with nonverbal communication, and the explanation of the importance and power of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication, like I mentioned before, has a huge impact on our everyday lives, and without being aware and informed of it, we cannot be successful within the workplace. As mentioned by Ralph Waldo Emerson, author of Letters and Social Aims, once said, "What you do speaks so loud that I cannot hear what you say." Thanks for listening.